Hey guys, welcome to the show. John here. Today on the show, I have someone by the name of Tom John. He's on the show today to talk about Fuel Radio. He's actually the owner of Fuel Radio. It's basically a metal, I believe, Christian metal internet radio station that Tom's been running for quite some time. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, no problem. Do you want to talk a little bit about Fuel Radio and kind of how this all got started for you?
Sure. Fuel Radio started, actually, it split off a station I started back in 2004 called The Refinery, which was basically everything. I played everything from maybe Christian rap to death metal, and started getting a lot of people asking, it's like, too many different style of music basically was my the biggest complaint. So we took our heavier music, and I started Fuel at the end of 2006, and it's been doing good ever since. It's basically everything from modern hard rock, metal to deathcore, everything in between. But it's a good mix.
Yeah, I know like these sort of like subgenres have sort of been blowing up throughout the last like 10 years.
I can't keep up with them all.
Yeah, it is really crazy with all the kind of like trends coming out and just like what everyone's doing. I mean, you can make a station for just about anything these days.
Yeah, in fact, I just started hearing about this new one. I think it's called Degent.
Yeah, it's kind of like a I was actually watching this video earlier. It's like it's sort of like they're playing like 7 or 8 string guitars, and they have more of like a I can't really describe the sound. It's just like more of like an aggressive tone with the guitars and how they sound.
But, yeah, it's actually pretty cool. It's there's a band out there called Quarter. It's Chorder. Really cool band. One of the coolest guitar tones I've heard, and it's just yeah. You guys have to check them out.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. Yeah, I mean, I listen to all kinds of music myself, so it's just always broadening the horizon, finding what's out there. I know next week here in Massachusetts, it's a worldwide tour, but the Warped Tour, which is huge for a lot of like modern metal, like sort of like these metalcore, hardcore, deathcore, whatever you want to call it, subgenres of metal. A lot of these bands are going to be playing Warped Tour, so I'm pretty excited about that. They've been doing that for years now.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the return of thrash. That's my favorite genre, is thrash metal.
That's more like 80s, isn't it?
It is, but there's a lot. I don't know if you go to YouTube and do search for thrash band. There's a lot of newer bands out there, some really good ones. But more with a modern sound. They got a lot of the breakdowns and stuff that you hear in the metalcore, but only without the metalcore vocals. So
it's got like a lot of elements of those sounds.
Yeah.
Like kind of developed over time. Now, I guess I wanted to ask, like, what got you into the idea of starting like a radio station, in the first place? I know you said, sharing your story, you said that you had originally had a radio station that was very broad, but like, what got you into that in the first place? Why start a radio station?
Well, I had a friend back in the late '80s. Who ran a Christian radio station. It was more CCM and stuff, and then on weekends, late at night, they'd have these like Christian metal shows, and this is when it was basically just Stryper and a couple of the there wasn't a whole lot of bands out there, and I've been into metal since I was in junior high. I got into Scorpions and Iron Maiden, and so I just I love metal. And so I don't know, somehow I came across finding these like underground bands, Christian bands, and so basically I went over there and hung out at the radio station with my friend, and then he just like asked me if I wanted to do a show, and so I started doing that. Like I said, in the late '80s, and did that for about 3 years, and I've got what you call OCD. I just been so I don't know. I just would get out there. I love metal, and I just started finding a lot of these Christian bands and stuff. And over the years, and I've got well over 5,000 CDs that I've been collecting over the years, and then plus all the tons of downloads that you get now. And and stuff. So I've got tons of music. So I loved radio. Not a DJ. I'm more of a, I guess I'd be more into the programming side of it, and so I just thought I'd like to share my music with people. There's a lot of stations out there, but just I don't know. I guess I've got this love for radio. I've listened to radio for a long time. The heavier stuff. We had a station out of Seattle called KISW, and just I don't know. I just like the way they had everything mixed and stuff. So I've always had this idea of what I wanted my radio station to sound like. It's just took a long time to get enough music to do that, but it's just with my love of music and love of radio and stuff. It was just something I've always wanted to do, and one of my friends had a little hobby he was running. He's a network engineer, and he had his own server and everything. So he had me taking over what he was doing on there, and then after I think he got a different position somewhere or something. So I just went off on my own and found some software, and it's been going ever since. But it's it's a lot of desire and fun and just and OCD.
No,
That's what I call it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I know. So, I mean, over the years, obviously, you started this. I think, did you say back in 2000? Was it 2005 or? I think
End of 2004, I started. That's when I started getting on there and running my friend's station, and then just spun off of there and been doing it on my own. I've got 2 stations that I run right now.
Now, what has changed, like in terms of? I'm sort of like coming into this because I mean, I have my own radio station now, and I thought partly the reason I wanted to interview is because I wanted to learn, but also I'd hopefully find anyone that's interested in doing radio might find this interesting. Maybe learning about like what's changed in terms of like some of the software you're using. I know Shoutcast was like a really big thing, and that's sort of I think fading out, if I understand.
Shoutcast is like the they're just the I don't even know what you call it. There's a few different ones. There's IceCast, and Shoutcast is the biggest one, but they're basically like not so much the software, but the
really like a directory.
It's kind of like the engine, the driving engine behind it. They're huge. I mean, Shoutcast is the biggest out there.
Yeah.
And stuff. But as far as like, I've been using the same software. I've been using the same brand since I started. It's just gotten bigger and better. And
yeah.
But the only thing that I see that's changing is that it has to keep up with the the new Windows, all the different technology of Windows coming out, and then plus all the added features that it has, and I've been happy with it throughout the years. But I've used the same one since 2004. I've used the same SAM broadcaster. So.
Yeah, that's what I knew. That one was pretty popular, and I know it's like evolved quite a bit over time. SAM broadcaster.
Yeah.
I think the platform that I'm using, I think it uses a back-end host, sort of like the software driving piece of it. I think it's called Centova, if I believe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that drives basically my station into the channels where I could have it on like a Shoutcast directory.
Right. Yeah, I use Centova. I use the same one. Yeah, because basically what your software does is it organizes your music. You automate when you play your IDs and your ads and your promos and stuff like that, and then you shoot your stream to these stream hosts and stuff. And yeah, and I do the same thing. But yeah, there's almost like a bunch of different steps to get your station out there. But yeah, you go from the software from your server, your computer, and then you go to the stream host, and then it goes out to all the players out there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was something else I wanted to ask. I mean, over time, have you found that? I mean, obviously for me, like I went and set up my server and got my channel running on Centova, and that automatically seemed to their settings just default put you in the Shoutcast directory.
Yeah.
I found like TuneIn.com seems to be blowing up. They claim they've got millions of listeners. I know they've got like Android, iOS apps, stuff like that. So I was nowhere to be found in that directory. So I had to like go and manually submit my stream.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that you found that you've just really had to get Fuel Radio out there by going and like submitting it to all these different
Yeah,
directories?
because basically you're a grain of sand on the beach. I mean, as far as radio stations, if you do a search, there's hundreds of thousands of them out there,
Sure.
and the more you get your name out there, the more people are going to find you. And these directories out there, there's a lot of really good ones out there. There's obviously Shoutcast, and then there's TuneIn Radio. A lot of people used to be really big on the Apple, but if you ever go to iTunes and stuff, or you download iTunes, it's almost like you have to add that feature. It's a feature, but you have to include it. Otherwise, but it used to be the big thing is get on Apple, and it kind of seems not that big of a deal anymore. Apple's kind of they kind of got their own. I think them and Microsoft are doing the same thing with the almost kind of like the Pandora type thing where you can
Sure.
listen to
Yeah, I
and
saw
stuff.
that.
Yeah, so I haven't, and plus Apple is so picky and everything, and so we were on Apple for a while, or on iTunes for a while, and when I was with, because you have to pay for royalties, and I would go through Loud City. Well, Loud City, part of being with Loud City is they got you on iTunes. Well, once Loud City shut down, yeah, iTunes like dumped everybody. That was on there. But like I said, I think they seem to be steering away from doing that and going more towards the Pandora type stuff, the more on demand, same, just like Pandora.
Right.
But yeah, getting yourself on in these radio directories is a good way of getting yourself out there, and then also making sure you tag yourself for the right, because you want to reach the right people. You don't want to try to I don't want to go out and reach a bunch of gospel, listeners and stuff with this,
Right.
I'd get all kinds of nasty letters. I get them already, but, so yeah, it's, that's, to find a list of them, you can, I use this tool called Google, but,
Yeah.
You put in radio directories and there's hundreds of them out there, and you just start adding, you just start going in. A lot of them, don't require much anything, and just going in and signing up, and then it takes a couple of days and you get an email, and you're on their list, and then you just want to make sure that you tag your music for the right genre and stuff, and so but TuneIn's the biggest.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. It seems like seems like they've done really well for themselves. I don't know if I forget, but I thought Shoutcast was like bought out by one of the companies. I forget.
Yeah, Shoutcast recently got bought out. I can't remember who was that bought them out, but yeah, they plan on doing some big things with that too. Yeah, with all the car radio, being able to get internet and stuff. I see internet radio just doing nothing but going forward. So it's just a matter of when somebody's going to go in, and like the RIAA is going to go in and make it to where all us little guys aren't going to be able to do that. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, I guess, with all the like piracy and everything going on with.
Yeah.
So much easier. Like, I mean, for me, really, I'm just uploading MP3s. I'm not like, nothing's being like validated in any way that whether or not I've purchased it or anything,
Right.
But yeah, I could see that being an issue, but I guess time will tell. Internet radio's been around for a long time.
It has, yeah, and they've butted heads with us since the beginning. That we're totally legal and licensed and everything. We go through streaming. Oh, we just went to them. Loud City was the biggest one for a while, and they went. They just all of a sudden shut down, and so we're going to this other one. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a stream licensing or something like that. But they're pretty good too. Because that's definitely a plus, especially if you're on Shoutcast. Buddy of mine thought he'd just throw a station on it, and it didn't take him 2 weeks before the was it CSAC? One of the licensing contacted him because he wasn't licensed. So
yeah, that's something I actually found. I don't know if you knew about it, but because Shoutcast is like sort of going away, and it's almost like the directory remains. There was some like ordering stuff in order to get licensed for MP3 streaming. You have to like go buy a license. I think it's like $5, but you can't do it right now. And I'm not sure if anyone solved it or not because of the fact that they've sort of shut that portion of the licensing down. I have to look into it more, but it's because I've got my station running as, I think the other one's like AAC format.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's actually running as that, but it's not. It's actually playing MP3s. So I didn't really know what to do. Nobody did. I found a whole forum thread on it on the Shoutcast forums or some other internet radio forum, and everybody was talking about it being an issue, and it was been out there for months. And I think it's sort of like they shut this thing down, and I don't know what the solution is. So that's kind of interesting. I'm sort of like
Right.
lost on that, and haven't had any problems. No one's like contacted me and said anything. So
Well, yeah, like I said, Loud City. There's different ways you can go. I think if you're like a really, really big radio station where you got hundreds of thousands of listeners, you actually have to pay all of the license. You have to pay them all individually. You have to keep track of who's being played, how many listeners and stuff. I mean, and that's how much you end up paying. Whereas Loud City and then Stream Host, I think it's Stream. I'm gonna look. If this doesn't, but I'm gonna look and see what they're called. Stream licensing. It's pretty reasonable too. We pay, I think, between the two stations, we pay $50 a month.
Hmm.
And that covers all license. They do all the reporting and everything. I don't have to do anything but just pay them. And they have a couple things that you have to host your listen page and your listen links all on their thing. But it looks like it's just part of your radio, part of your website. It's just if you notice the URL is different. But yeah, I went a long time the first couple of years 'cause I didn't know anything about it. I just thought, hey, I'm doing these guys a favor. Well, no, I didn't look at it that way, but you think, okay, I'm playing these guys' music and stuff. But now, all of a sudden, found out, oh man, to be legal, I have to pay that. So I've always done that, but yeah, it's for a long time. I know they were trying to make the prices so high that any of the little guys wouldn't have made it. But I'm glad that Congress that went to Congress and everything, and that was back, I believe, in the early 2000s, like 2006, 2007.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
But they've been always trying to do that to and so that's why if you're running out there and you're not licensed, they'll it doesn't take them long to find you and they'll come after you. Only because Shoutcast, they're always monitoring Shoutcast, and IceCast is another one and stuff. But so yeah, if you're playing stuff, especially I mean, I guess if you're playing, I know there's certain bands that fall like independent bands and stuff. If you have permission and stuff, that you could play without having to have a license and stuff. But that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, you like contact each one or whatever I wouldn't even imagine that it wouldn't be worth it unless you're really trying to, you got a lot, and it's like.
Yeah, unless you're really stuck like on a local venue where you're playing. If you have you live in a place where there's a lot of local bands and you're playing that, yeah, that would, I could see a benefit in doing it that way. But doing like what we're doing, yeah, it's just. And they charge you by how many listeners you have and stuff. So, the more listeners you have, the more expensive it gets. And then I can't remember what the cutoff is, but if you're up in the like tens of thousands of listeners, yeah, you basically have to go in and take care of all that yourself, and it's expensive. But if you got that kind of listeners, you should, with ads and stuff, the more listeners you have, the more attention you get from companies to do ads and stuff like that. But we're nowhere near that.
Yeah, that was another thing I was going to ask about. Was, I mean, obviously, if you're paying for some of these features, licensing them. I think you had mentioned earlier that the station itself is free for you. I know for most people, they're probably paying, if they got any decent amount of listeners, you're going to be paying as much as like $20-$30 or more a month.
A lot more than that. Yeah, you figure licensing, stream, like you said, Sonova and stuff, that cost depends on how many listeners you pay for, and then plus your what you pay a month for to host on your website, and yeah, it adds up. I mean, between the two stations, I think we're about $120 or something, like $120-$130 a month. But
wow.
But we do every year we do a I guess like a what do you call it, like a fundraiser type thing where and people donate, and you get enough listeners, it's easier. So we've been doing that. Like I said, I think now we went on this is our 4th year here that we've raised enough money to run all year.
Wow.
Stuff,
Now, I
so.
mean, how are you going about monetizing the show, like in general? I mean, I don't know if you're doing that or not, but I know obviously a lot of people, you'll hear ads and things like that. You could make a little bit of money when these companies pay you to have your listeners listen to their ads, things like that.
Yeah, I'm just now been talking to a couple of places that I'm trying to work something out, doing it that way. But it's been, for us, it's all been donations.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, we got a few faithful people that do good, and they challenge other people, and like we have one guy every year that he's been doing this, but he'll donate like $1,000 every year, but it's only by if other people are. So he matches what everybody does up to $1,000, and then so there's 2,000 right there, and we're paid for a year, and he's done that for us. I mean, he's a big network guy, or does something at a college or something, but he's been doing it for years, so we kind of take good care of him.
Yeah, wow,
But
that's
no.
pretty awesome. I mean, just a faithful fan, basically.
Yeah, and a cool thing on the same line is a lot of these. I've met, some of my like best friends or coolest people I've met I've never met them, but I talk to them all the time on our forum, and yeah, it's like all these. Well, we had one guy that was doing interviews for us, and he had hookups. I mean, he was going in and talking to a lot of bands. He'd go to a lot of concerts and stuff. He lived in Minnesota, I believe, Minnesota. But yeah, he was doing interviews for us for a while. He hasn't done it in like this year. Last year he did them. Hoping that he gets started again. But yeah, it's kind of cool because you get these listeners, and you get these faithful people, and then all of a sudden people want to do stuff for you and help you out, and it's just really cool, and you meet a lot of cool friends that you actually don't meet.
Right, yeah, people you meet online. I've kind of had the same share of my marketing stuff that I do. I've met all kinds of, I think I've interviewed now just about like 70 people. I think you'd probably
Nice.
be close to 70 because I did a couple shows like solo, but I've got like 71 episodes as of last week.
Wow.
So yeah, in about a year or so's time. So I just reached out. For a while, I was doing like one a week pretty consistently. So this is kind of like a side venture, I guess, to do the metal podcast. Maybe people would be more interested in like, metal, I guess, in general. I don't, whereas the other stuff is like more marketing specific.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I was going to ask too, I mean, I know we kind of talked about it, but what are some other ways like you've gone about like really promoting Fuel Radio? Like, do you do any advertising in terms of like paying Google or, running Facebook ads or doing any of these other like tactics or anything? Or have you just sort of like let things kind of expand on their own, word of mouth?
A lot of it is I've joined a lot of forums. There's a few forums out there that are basically their main focus is Christian metal, Christian music. So I belong to a few of those. A lot of it's been word of mouth. And we started when I first started. I was lucky to get 5 listeners, during the day. But I started connecting with people, and I'm a self-taught web developer, and now we just launched. In fact, this morning we just launched our new Fuel web page. Totally redesigned it, and one of the friends that I met online, his name's Nathaniel, lives in Florida, so clear across the United States from me, and he's a web developer, and he's went in and did all these like really, we started talking on the phone, and we'd come up with we'd start bouncing all these ideas off of each other, and I mean he'd go, it was amazing because I'd tell him, hey, it would be cool to do this, and he was give me a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes later we're doing it, and it's like, wow, that's cool. So he taught me some things, and so I've learned to do my my own web stuff, and then we created a forum, and that's when we started, getting more people in. More people would come in, and then when you started talking, and then they would start, they would tell their friends, and then all of a sudden their friends would join our forum and stuff, and then so we were trying to think of ways to get these people involved, and so that's when we started designing our website to be like right now. Fuel Radio is member based. We don't charge for it, but like if you join our forum, you all of a sudden you get all these benefits, or I don't want to say benefits, but you get access to all these features on our website. And so we just redesigned our new one, Fuel. It's got some pretty cool stuff. And we're adding more, but that it's like, to me, to attract, it's not. I don't want to just attract somebody to come listen. I want to keep them listening. And I guess it's kind of like a car. I've never been a salesman, but like a car salesman, if a place is really good, or any place of business, if they're really good, they always tell you that it's not the one-time customers that come in, it's the repeat customers. So I look at what we do is the same way. If you can not just draw somebody in, but keep them coming in, and so just I guess just doing that's really helped us out a lot too. And I also notice, like, we go in waves. There'll be times that we'll just have a lot of people listening and stuff, and then people get busy and stuff, and then we always seem to know that it's time to change things or add something or fix something when the listeners go down and they start staying down. So that's kind of something that we try to watch out for, and it can be a pain in the rear too, because then you got to think of something. You got to try to top yourself.
Right.
But I think the biggest way for me that attract listeners, like you said, was word of mouth, or I guess on the internet would be, the internet version of word of mouth is just getting your name out there, getting to meet people, and the best way to do that is forums, blogs, just different thing where people, because one thing, like with radio, I notice, and I'm sure you've noticed this too, is like that, let's say the top 40 or top 20 type stations, they're a dime a dozen. There's a million of them out there.
Right.
The ones that are doing really good, they got their act together. I mean, they got everything professional. Everything is tight. Everything is interactive. There's just different things. So that's what separates them. But somebody like what you do and like what I do, I mean, metal's big, but it's not huge. I mean, it's not, and especially what I do with Christian metal, it's a niche market. And so it's harder to find those kind of listeners. It's harder to find the people that are into what I do. And so getting out there and talking with people in these blogs and forums and stuff is basically the only way you can do it. That and making sure that your keywords and everything on your website are set up so that when somebody does a search for Christian metal or heavy metal or metalcore, that you're within the first. You want to be in the first page, but there's I think over the years, I think a lot of it I've done on accident or just doing a little research, but yeah, getting your word of mouth is the biggest one. Yeah,
it makes sense. Now, I wanted to ask, how many listeners on average do you have now that where it is today? You've been running this for what, it'd be 9 years or so.
Yeah, Fuel Radio, man, it's up and down. I mean, it can go from, I'll get 30 or 40 up to 60, 70, 80. We can only take 100, and I've peaked out a few times. But considering that that's all day long and stuff, and I look on Sonova, what's funny is, talking about that too. If you ever look on Sonova, if you're running a radio station and you look on there, you can show where the people are listening from.
Yep.
And if you have a lot of listeners out of Germany, and I'm just now learning this. I've joined. I've been kind of wondering about it because I noticed, like, on certain songs play, it's like all of a sudden you jump up. I mean, you'll jump from like 30 to 60 listeners like within a matter of like a minute or so. And so I always thought that maybe there was something kind of, it was kind of a flaw or a fluke, but found out that there's a lot of stream rippers out there, and majority of them come from Germany. I just recently joined another forum. It's called broadcastingworld.com. You might want to check that out too. you got people from all different kinds of radio, celestial radio, internet radio. I talked to one guy that had been doing who did he work with there? He worked with some bit. No, it wasn't Tom Likas. It was somebody out there that I've heard before and stuff, and you get a lot of really good insight and a lot of good information off of there. But so you get all these people from Germany that are, and I don't know how they do it. So apparently they know what's playing on your station, and all of a sudden your listeners jump way up there. Yeah, they say that they're stream ripping. So they get your songs and they play them on their radio station, which hey, if they want to listen, if they're listening to my station, I don't care. But it's
kind of interesting, huh?
But I would say average of real listeners, not counting that, I would say I average about between 40 and 50. With a little bit, it just depends, but which is pretty good because that's. It might not sound like a lot, but for what I'm doing, it's a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look on Sonova too. When you look on there, you can actually, if yours is set up like mine, and I'm not sure if they're all set up the same. I go through.
I think if you're using this platform, I'm looking at mine now because I was curious, and I've actually had in the last 30 days, Germany's the number 2 for listeners. I've had 142 listeners.
Yeah, and are you playing stuff that's like really bit like watch your songs, see what they're doing. Like if you get a good song, like I notice like some bands, like when you get the big band, like for As I Lay Dying, or you play those bands, or some of the bigger name bands.
Yeah, I particularly noticed. You can look in the stats, and I noticed that on specifically on songs by A Day to Remember, which is a really big kind of like post-hardcore, hardcore, metalcore band. They're sort of exploding in that subgenre niche. I feel like.
Yeah.
They, a lot of it it shows people listening and connecting during their songs.
Yeah. Somehow and I read this in Broadcasting World, and I also belong on the forum for Sam Broadcaster, and they talk about it a lot too. There's different ways you can. To me, it's a losing battle. You're wasting a lot of time and stuff trying to fight them and stuff. But they say that the biggest way to because what they're doing is they're trying to record the song as you play it, so they can add it to their whatever they're doing. If they're doing radio, or I'm not even sure what they're doing. To me, it's just speculation. I mean, unless somebody from Germany writes, "Hey, we've been doing this," I don't know why they're doing it or what they're doing. But they say that the best way to fight it is to make sure that you're cross-fading your songs, even if it's a matter of half a second or whatever, because then they have to cut that off at the end and the beginning and stuff like that. I don't waste my time on it, just like I said from what I read. But yeah, it's just funny to sit there and watch it. All of a sudden, I'll be looking at my my server, and I'll be like when I'm doing some scripting or updating some things on my station. And all of a sudden, I'll look and there'll be, let's say there's 25 listeners, and then I'll look up there again, and then there's 40 or 50, and it's like, okay, stream rippers.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, it is. And I've just, like I said, I've just within probably the last month and a half is when I've been, when I found out what they were. I thought it was just maybe possibly something going on at the stream host, because I've seen it forever. and I've just never really thought anything about it. I remember a couple times where it went from maybe 15, 20 listeners up to peaking at 100, and it's like, so I just thought it was a fluke at the stream host at Sonova, but apparently now I know what they are.
Yeah, I've even got on mine, it shows 79 in the last 30 days from the Russian Federation as well.
Oh, wow.
And I've got another 57 from Brazil. So I found that interesting. So I have the least of all my listeners is from the UK, and I've got above that Singapore, Japan, Canada, Poland, and Colombia.
Wow.
So it's quite interesting. The US is beating all of them with 300 listeners, I guess, in the last 30 days. Mine's never mind-blowing. If I look at my stats, I don't think I've ever gotten above 10 unique at any time last I looked. But
yeah, and now how long have you been doing this?
Oh, I don't know, probably. I mean, I sort of got lucky because a friend of mine, he actually owns the website. I think he must have registered this a long time ago. He actually owns the .com, shoutcastservers.com. He hasn't promoted it in a long time, but he does a lot of basically server hosting for people who have big companies that need really high-end servers. Here in Boston, he does a lot of like collocation, which is like really high-end stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he had this on the side, but he used to rank for all these shoutcast terms back when it was a little easier to rank in Google, and I think he just stopped this because it's kind of chump change compared to, he's charging his other clients hundreds of dollars versus this maybe being, $5 to $30
Right.
to go set up a shoutcast box. But he hooked me up for free. I asked him about it. He says, "Oh yeah, I'll set you up," and he gave me unlimited everything, highest bandwidth. So I said, "Of course I'm going to use this." So I've put,
no kidding.
yeah, I put about, I haven't done really anything to promote it. I mean, I put up a page on my site, but my site doesn't really get a lot of traffic. I think the recent Google update actually killed it because it's mainly music videos. There isn't really a lot of written content on there.
Oh yeah.
And I think that really killed the traffic. I've only gotten about 300 visitors on my website, in the last month. But I've noticed, I'm in the Shoutcast directory, but for whatever reason, Centova doesn't save. I know you were talking earlier about the sort of picking the correct genre. Obviously, I don't want to be like having gospel people listen. And I think it put me in like an uncategorized, and I can't get that to change, and I have no idea how. I just haven't.
Now where's that at in Centova? Yeah, I'm
Centova. Yeah, if there's,
yes.
I know there's like a section, like just going through settings, like I can find, for example, if I go to Auto DJ, there's a genre setting, and right now it's set to metal, and I think in order to change it, your station has to be like shut down. And I've tried changing it, and it never changes. If I update it, it doesn't stay. But even still, I noticed on the Shoutcast directory, it's not even in metal, and I'm not sure why. But I have had people listening. I mean, the bonus, I guess, is if someone were to go in Shoutcast directory and search for like metalcore specifically, that my station, just because of the title, will come up.
Right.
So
yeah. Now, Sam Broadcaster, when you set up your encoder, you actually, that's where you put all your information in, and then when it goes to Shoutcast, that's where it reads it from. And so we have our set up on, I think we show up under, Fuel shows up under metalcore for its base tag in Shoutcast. And in fact, in a lot of the directories, when they type in metalcore, that's where that's kind of our main, the main genre that we play is the general genre is metalcore. So we show up as you do a search for metalcore in Shoutcast, and then Fuel Radio comes up.
Right. I think I did see that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe you can help me after the interview. We can take a look at it real quick or something.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm trying to think of anything else. I know we've been running for about a half hour here. I don't know if you wanted to wrap things up or if you had anything else you wanted to share. I know we've talked about quite a bit.
Yeah, no, just if you love music and you love technology, I mean, I'm a network engineer at Lockheed Martin, so I eat, breathe, sleep, drink computers. But it's awesome for people like us that want to mix the two, that want to get our music out there and stuff, and just I think it's just a passion, and it's the passion that keeps you going, and if you have that, I think you'll do good. You say you've only had 10 listeners, but that's, that's, you're able to be listened to all over the world. And as long as you got enough people interested in stuff, and then you learn how to get them and get other people, I think you'll do good. That's one thing I can say is it takes a lot. It takes a long time to get a listener base, and then to keep them. That's the big thing. That's the secret, especially for little guys like us.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I've thought about building up a Facebook fan page to, these kinds of people, and then basically using that as an advertising means to drive some more listeners, and reaching out to maybe communities. There's lots of communities on Facebook, like fan pages and stuff that love this kind of music, so I know there's definitely a market out there.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's funny. That's one of the biggest things out there, and it's like social media. And I hate Facebook so much because it's just, I don't know. It's just, I hate it.
But it's kind of like this addiction, I find myself reading my news feed, and it's like, oh man, what a waste of time. I'm just, I actually think I might consider blocking it soon, like so I don't go there like involuntary, so I can just get stuff done that I really am on the computer to do.
Yeah, I hardly ever go on Facebook except for to update things. But Sam Broadcaster has this option where you can run a script, and so every 4 hours it automatically puts what we're playing out on Twitter, and then I have Twitter to set up to whatever goes on Twitter copies over to our Facebook, and that's been huge too because we get bands like Brian Head Welch, formerly, well, he's with Korn, back with Korn, but
Sure.
he'll see it on there and then he'll favorite it, or some of these bands. So when the bands start getting them and people are checking out the band, that's another way to get listeners too. And I don't know why I didn't think of it, but yeah, that's another way of getting it out there.
Yeah, I noticed something like that. There's a band, I don't know if you'd know them. It's a band called Palisades, I think if I said it right. But they a little newer, sort of like metalcore, hardcore, whatever you want to call it. But they I posted like one of their music videos on Twitter, and the lead vocalist like picked it up and retweeted it, and I was like, wow, I'm really But I think it's just the fact that his band was there. He like saw this. He's probably looking for people mentioning his band, and that's just what he happened to find.
And their tens of thousands of followers will see that, and and you might attract a few of them. So yeah, that is a very important way to get your station out there that I kind of overlooked. But yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Tom. And yeah, if you want to stay on, we'll talk a little bit about this like genre thing. Maybe I can get it sorted.
Yeah, this was fun. I've never been interviewed before. I've interviewed a few people, but this was kind of fun.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm going to end the show.
All right. Thanks, John.
Yep. Thanks.